Hiya and welcome back for another history video where we chill out and play some games. I hope you've been enjoying the videos about the Celtic Britain so far. There are quite a few tribes, some of them are considered lesser, like the one we're going to be talking about today, the Carvetii. The reason I say lesser is because we know they existed and they were definitely a tribe, but they may or may not have been under the same banner of a larger tribe like the Carvetii may have been. And we only really know about them from really limited materials. For example, we have no mention of them from our old friend Ptolemy in his geography at all. We have mention of the other tribes around them, but the Carvetii aren't mentioned at all. We do have 3 Roman inscriptions about them from the 3rd and 4th century, one of which is now actually lost, so we just straight up don't have it anymore. One was in Old Penrith, north of the present Penrith, on a tombstone. The others were on 2 milestones, one at Frenchfield and the other one at Langwathby in Cumbria, both also near Penrith. So you'll see going forward that they were clearly centred around the area. There's a lot of speculation as well on where their capital was. Some of the leading material for this tribe has been documented by the late Professor Barry Jones and his student and frequent co-author Nicholas Higham. Barry laid a lot of the groundwork for how archaeology and the Celtic Britons are seen today in England. Before that, archaeology wasn't considered a very professional subject, shall we say. So you'll hear these names come up quite a lot in today's video, but I'll refer to them as Higham and Jones going forward, since this is how they are usually represented and how they chose to publish themselves as well in their books. So Higham and Jones in 1985 suggested that the combination of the first 2 inscriptions mentioned before allows us to infer the existence of the Civitas Carvetorium or canton of the Carvetii, and the existence of its own council or governing body. I mentioned earlier about how the Carvetii may have been under a neighbouring tribe's banner. A lot of people believe that it was actually the Brigantes that we spoke about in a previous video, and some, including Higham and Jones, have speculated that Venetus' first husband, the Brigantian Queen Catamandua, that we've also spoken about very briefly, as well as being an important British resistance leader, may have actually been a Carvethian himself. There was a series of marching camps set up by the Roman governor Quintus Vitellius Cyrillus. In his campaign, they stretched away from Stanwick, across the Stainmore Pass and towards the Eden Valley, suggesting that the Carvetii were the centre of Venetus's power base and the prime objective of these campaigns as they were leading them. Then we have archaeologist Catherine Ross, on the other hand, who disagrees with these theories and challenges them in her own publications and work. She argues that the very notion of a tribe, in the sense of being a geographically defined unit, probably didn't actually exist in the north for the Celtic northern tribes, and there's no evidence either of the Brigantes holding power over northern tribes or a Brigantian confederacy of tribes. That there's no certain interpretation of the 3 inscriptions either, and that there's no written evidence of Venetus being Carvetii or Carvethian. She also points that the archaeological evidence of the name Lugavalus, which eventually becomes Carlisle, may point to the Carvetii being a pro-Roman tribe based in a Solway plain with a centre at Carlisle, while Venetus might have led an anti-Roman, non-Carvethian tribe somewhere else in the upper Eden Valley south of Penrith. One of the existing stone monuments we do have for the Carvetii, though, is called Long Meg and Her Daughters, which is a stone circle similar in the sense to Stonehenge. It's got quite a wide diameter of 350 feet. It's the second biggest in the country. Long Meg has 69 stones in total. Long Meg herself, which I will explain in a minute, is about 12 feet high with 3 symbols carved into it, and it stands some 60 feet outside of the circle itself, while it looks in at all of the daughter stones. One of the most famous poets, William Wordsworth, also wrote a poem while sitting next to Long Meg, which was called The Monument Commonly Called Long Meg in 1822, and it is as follows. The weight of awe not easy to be borne fell suddenly upon my spirit cast, from dread bosom of the unknown past, when first I saw that family forlorn. Speak thou, whose massy strength and stature scorn the power of years preeminent and placed apart to overlook the circle vast. Speak, giant mother, tell it to the morn, while she dispels the cumbrous shades of night. Let the moon hear, emerging from a cloud, and at whose behest uprose on British ground that sisterhood in hieroglyphic round, foreshadowing, some have deemed, the infinite, the inviolable God that tames the proud. So on to why they are called Meg and her daughters. There is a local legend in the area, which is that Long Meg was a witch who, with her daughters, was turned to stone for profaning the Sabbath. They dance wildly on the moor and they all turn to stone, and the circle is supposedly endowed with magic, so it's impossible to count the same number of stones twice, but if you do manage it, the magic's broken. One reason that we have for Long Meg is that people believe it is a cairn, like a burial mound, but we also believe it's probably a place where people came together at certain times of the year and had rituals, social exchanges and trade as well. There is another story surrounding the local witch Meg, who was called Meg of Meldon. This story started in the 17th century, so long after the Carvetii was around. But they do say that if you cut the rocks, the rocks will bleed as well. They have found long animal bones buried at the site, which in the past was interpreted as being a giant's body. By this point, like most Celtic Britons, we're probably never going to know for sure, especially since we know so little about the Carvetii. But as always, it was still enjoyable reading and researching them for this video. Not a whole lot that we know about them. They are one of the smaller ones with the less known about them. But please don't forget to share, like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment down below for what you'd like to see next. Bye bye.